Hey, welcome to Apollo City Comics. I'm Brandon.
And I am your father.
Oh.
No, I'm David. What's up?
We're... That was ridiculous. Well, today we chose a Star Wars story.
We did.
Because we've been so excited about Star Wars. We haven't stopped talking about it since we saw the movie.
Yeah.
And the minute I started hearing rumors, and I try to avoid them as much as possible, but after even seeing the movie, like... I researched this story as a kid, and I was so amazed by the concept of it. And it's practically the Rise of Skywalker. And it's back when Star Wars had amazing comics coming out by Dark Horse. And this is the Dark Empire, Volume 1. It's part of a trilogy, but we just read the first volume because that's all that's really important to our debate.
Our discussion here.
There you go.
We'll read the other ones eventually.
Yeah, they seem interesting.
And from what Brandon's been talking about, it seems like they're pretty self-contained. Mm-hmm. Of course, the last series is only 2, so...
I want to say they're oversized issues, too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I want to say. Because they came out as 2 books, it said. So, that's cool. And it's its own volume. And I figure if it's its own volume, then it has to be at least, 100 pages.
Yeah.
90 pages, worth printing. Tom Veitch is the writer. Cam Kennedy is the artist on this. Mm-hmm. Todd Klein is the letterer. And Dave Dorman. Dave Dorman is the cover artist, and he is super famous for his Star Wars work. You'll see it all across everything, dude. Like, Dave Dorman has done some awesome stuff. And, something I want to say right away is that the artwork really made me take a step back right from page 1. Like, not that it's bad or anything, but it's like interesting how they do the shading and the coloring on their
I
faces.
picked up on this too. For like a whole page, it'll be one color, really.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's sort of like a money-saving, time-saving technique to where you don't have to color everything.
That's what I felt.
You just color one color and then just shade everything differently. Mm-hmm. But there are times where stylistically it really pays off.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's an interesting touch because it's very pastel and that's like not something that's in Star Wars.
No, it's very unique looking.
It's very unique.
But it's a great book. It's a great story, but I wasn't like super, I felt like it was more dense than it needed to be.
Interestingly, you had told me that it was super dense, and I had only read the first 4 issues. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't really think so. And then when I started the last two get really intense. Yeah. Once the dialogue starts really coming out, it's like, okay, whoa, there's a lot to read here. The first issue kind of flies by, to be honest. There's not too much dialogue, but it gets it's a little uneven in its storytelling, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's the writing is good, though, I think. Mm-hmm. Especially the dialogue. I thought the dialogue...
real organic to the Star Wars characters.
Yeah. The only one that I kind of didn't fall behind all the way is Leia. And I think Leia is just kind of written as, I am now Han's wife.
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like she's evolved a lot between when we see her and to read her at this point.
Well, I checked out kind of what's going on in the Star Wars expanded universe because... I read Shadows of the Empire when I was a kid, and I think I started some of the books, but I couldn't really get all the way into them because by the time that I was reading those kind of books, there were so many of them. And I have this obsessive thing with wanting to start at the beginning.
Oh, I'm the same way, 100%.
And it just felt
it's hard.
It's hard in Star Wars. It's confusing, and since they're all written by different people, it's kind of hard to keep straight. Mm-hmm. But Dark Empire, I thought, was actually it's a really nice kind of jumping in point for old Star Wars universe content.
That's a great unique thing about this. You don't really need it. You just need to know that the original trilogy happened, and this is picking up right after Jedi. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah,
that's all your research.
It's one of Dark Horse's first Star Wars books, and chronologically in the greater universe, it takes place after the Thrawn trilogy, after Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy.
I'd love to read that.
I would too.
Yeah.
That would be really cool, and knowing that one's directly after Return of the Jedi, and then it'll lead into this, I'm super down now because I feel like
now that's the beginning point.
Yeah, exactly. And they do give you towards the end of the book, they had this a bunch, like every issue they have a bunch of pages where it's just text. And I was reading through them, and one of the first ones is like explaining the Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah.
Just it's a really quick overview. So even at the end, and you don't even need to know that even happened. Really, the story still makes sense.
Oh yeah, completely.
You just assume there's been a time jump. But you could read that at the back and feel pretty good about it. And it was even funnier. Like you keep reading them, and then by like the third or fourth one, they're like summarizing Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
and I'm like, wow, you guys are summarizing this for like someone who's never seen Star Wars, which just seems so weird to me. But
yeah,
I guess that is cool though.
It is cool. And as we saw in Reign of Fire recently, Star Wars is like the most well-known story, and it's gonna be told forever.
Yeah. That is a great Reign of Fire scene. If you haven't seen that movie, Gerard Butler and Christian Bale are like taking care of a bunch of kids from dragons, and there's a scene where they're entertaining the kids at night, and they've been living in this apocalyptic world, so they haven't seen movies.
For
they're
like 8
little
years
kids.
or something.
Yeah. And the two of them act out the final scene from Empire Strikes Back, like Luke and Vader fighting each other. And the kids are all like they're like on the edge of their seat, you know what I mean? They're so excited about it. And one of them's like, "Did you write that?" And they're like, "Yes, I wrote that." It's really funny. That movie's cool. It's a good movie.
Definitely
it's enjoyable.
Super underrated.
Watch the Character Limit Exceeded.
Yes, YouTube it now. But this, I mean, when I was a kid, I learned about this, and what attracted me to it. Well, let's just dive into it.
Oh, okay.
Kick
cool.
us off, David.
Well, I have the I thought it would be cool to read the title credit crawl. That's
actually,
in the
I'm so
book.
sorry. Before you start,
Oh, yeah.
something we do need to clarify, especially for the noobs out there.
Noobs. Okay.
That this was old continuity.
Oh yeah, I guess that is true. In case you're not that far into it, when Disney bought Star Wars, all of this got erased,
Which is terrible.
It's terrible. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest. I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame them because they had to tell new, fresh stories
Yeah.
from their budget.
And if they just had to take these stories that are of varying quality,
Oh yeah,
but it is sad because a lot of this I had a connection to as a kid.
Oh, and dude, I was just telling you earlier, I just went through a crazy Star Wars read over the last couple, honestly, over the last 4 days. I read
Wow.
7 series,
Whoa.
back to back to back. I couldn't stop. But it was so nostalgic, and I have hated Star Wars for the last 8 years of my life after being a giant Star Wars fan. My second tattoo was a Mandalorian skull, ever, and that was I was 19. I had to get it, and I just hated it because Disney took it over, and I felt they trashed it,
Yeah.
And I think in between the last video game that just came out, loving Rise of Skywalker, and doing a little bit of research, dude, just diving into some of these old stories, I just was beautiful.
Yeah, that's
I'm so
cool.
happy about it.
That's a cool Star Wars experience, man.
Yeah. So now I'm just, and Battlefront 2. We just started playing Battlefront 2
I've just been on Battlefront 2.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've been down.
And I'm so back in my Star Wars state.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but this whole conversation about reading this book and everything, I really just want to go back and play Shadows of the Empire on 64.
Yes.
I have a 64. I have a copy of the game, and I never beat it when I was a kid. I remember getting stuck somewhere. It was around that train level, that salvage junk train thing that was going on.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I think you find Boba Fett and you fight him.
Mm-hmm.
I remember beating that, and I don't know what happens after that. I can't remember anymore.
I can't remember.
I need to go back and just tear through it.
I don't know if I even got that far in that game because I was so terrible at video games when I was that young.
Yeah, and that game jumped all over the place. Yeah. It was a lot when you were a little
His
kid.
name was what? Dax Rendar?
Dash Render.
Dash Render.
Yeah.
Supposedly a ship is in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Along with the ship from Rebels.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting.
That's cool. Well, you hear the guy's voice in one of the Force calls.
Who?
I don't know, the dude from Rebels.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his voice.
A bunch of people from the animated shows show up there.
Yeah.
It's 3 of them.
Ahsoka.
And my name is blanking. I loved Rebels, and I can't think of their names right now.
I never watched it because I hated Star Wars for so long, but I'm so excited to watch it.
Kanan Jarrus is one of them.
Oh.
And he's cool, dude. He's one of the coolest Jedis in the expanded universe ever. He's such an interesting character.
Really?
Yeah, he's one of the best parts of Rebels. And then they have the kid, and he's the main character of the show, and I can't think of his name. Ezra Bridger. Ezra.
Ah, yeah.
He's okay. He's a little whiny. He gets cooler as the show goes on. It's like, why is this annoying kid here?
The Skywalker descendant.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna say anything else. You have to watch it.
Down.
This isn't really a spoiler, but none of them are Skywalkers.
Oh, okay.
So get ready for that. That's exciting.
That's fun.
And there's a great Mandalorian character too. There's a whole Mandalorian arc in Rebels. It's really good. You need to watch it, man. Anyway, let's dive into this book then.
Do it.
Okay, so the comic opens with a title crawl, just like a movie does. And just to kind of fill you guys in on what's going on, this is what's written in the book. Following the deaths of Darth Vader and the Emperor and the destruction of the second Death Star, the Rebel Alliance proclaimed a new republic. I'm not going to do this the whole time. Over 3/4 of the galaxy. But without the thousands of Jedi Knight who formed the backbone of the old republic, the new confederation was a precarious one.
The old republic.
Yeah, it's interesting because the old republic is referencing the prequels.
Yeah.
Before the prequels were written, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say Old Republic now, it makes you think of like Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
But I guess at this point it would be called the Old Republic because it's gone and it's the Empire now.
And it's super old at this point. Yeah.
Long years of struggle ensued during which the Imperials regained strength, pushing back the Alliance until the majority of worlds, including the vital Imperial system, fell once again under Imperial control. Then, without warning, civil war erupted as factions within the Imperial Navy battled the former Emperor's ruling circle for control of the Empire. And just a quick note, this is actually kind of talking about the Thrawn trilogy. Because Thrawn is like a general in the Empire who still fights the rebels after the Death Star is destroyed. Then, without warning, civil war erupted as factions within the Imperial Navy battled the former Emperor's ruling circle for control of the Empire. The rebels seized the opportunity to sow confusion among the feuding Imperials, using captured Star Destroyers to conduct hit-and-run sorties into the war zone. One such raid over the raging Imperial City battleground ended in disaster. The Alliance Star Destroyer Liberator, which is interesting because a bunch of the Star Destroyers in this book have names.
Yeah,
a lot of the ships have names. That is cool. That's something that's kind of missing from the old, from all of them, really.
Yeah.
None of them really have ship names. You think they would?
Because all the ships have names. The Falcon, like...
Yeah. That's weird to me.
Was it... What's his face from Shadows of the Empire? What was the ship's name?
Oh, man, you put me on the spot. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
The Ghost is, I think, Rebels.
Tell us in the comments.
Anyway, the Alliance Star Destroyer Liberator, commanded by Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian, crashed on the planet's surface. Only Luke's skillful use of the ship's deflector shields and anti-grav braking system prevented all aboard from being killed. As our story opens, Princess Leia Organa and her husband Han Solo, together with the Wookiee Chewbacca and the protocol droid C-3PO, are on a daring mission to rescue their fallen comrades.
How cool. Mm-hmm. And, the artwork's so awesome. I love, page 2, we have this giant full page splash, and it's like all these destroyed, like, TIE fighters and Y-Wings and, like, Imperial fighters, and there's even, like, the diplomatic ship there in the corner. Just a cool visual.
Yeah, and you got the Millennium Falcon tearing through it, and they have written in there, like that sound the Millennium Falcon makes.
Yeah.
It's like a screeching kind of sound.
Yeah.
Which is silly because in space that sound wouldn't exist.
Is that what, on page 2?
Yeah, on page 2 on that spread.
Oh, I thought that was Chewbacca speaking.
No, I'm pretty sure that's the ship. Or maybe it is Chewbacca speaking. But it would just be a random line of dialogue.
Yeah.
It could be Chewbacca, though.
I thought it was Chewbacca. Because the next time he talks, he's like...
It's not spelled that way, though. It's got an H on it. That's what gives it the... You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well... So they're going to go rescue Lando and Luke.
Yeah.
And you get this total Battlefront feeling. There's AT-ATs everywhere, and they're flying through it. They're dodging all these people. You see the rebels fighting, and it's a bunch of cool scenes where you're just seeing stuff blow up, and the Falcon's just flying through all this stuff. And essentially just saying what the credit said.
Yeah, and you know what? This first issue, when I was reading the title crawl, I was like, oh, this is just the first issue.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens in this whole issue. There's some monsters show up. There's some attack droids, which I thought was interesting. They have the Empire using battle droids.
Yeah.
Which isn't at all in the old movies, but I mean becomes such a huge part of the trilogy.
And it looks
the
so
attack droids.
crazy.
Yeah, they do.
It looks so Terminator-y, like C-3PO Terminators.
Yeah, they look a lot like C-3PO, actually. They look like a man inside a suit. That's what they look like. And then we get this awesome thing of like Luke Skywalker
Just
being
using
confronted
the
by the
Force.
AT-ST.
Yeah.
And, the AT-AT. And the cool part is that visually it looks so much like what happens at the end of Last Jedi.
Yeah.
The like kind of standoff, but in this one he just crushes it from the inside,
Which is awesome. I love how he
Yeah.
even says like size doesn't matter. It's all in your mind. and
Yeah,
all this. And he
exactly.
And I love the way Luke is drawn in this book. How he just has his like kind of a Batman-esque feel where it's just like his
Yeah.
cloak and you really don't see him, but it's just like his face and his arm movements.
Yeah, you have no idea what the outline of his body is in this
Yeah.
comic book. You're right, though. He gets like a mysterious master kind of vibe, and immediately he seems dark.
You know, and I think maybe that's why they use the palette that they use. Because, you know, when you see him talking to Leia and Han on one of the following pages, it has that green on him.
Yeah.
And he just looks like scary and hidden and like ominous. And
Yeah, it is kind of
Yeah.
crazy. It's weird, too, because they hop in between it.
Mhm.
There's a couple pages in the book that are just colored.
yeah, like totally normal
Yeah.
too. Like
So-
they have like skin tone and everything.
Yeah, it doesn't feel... it doesn't feel like too much of one thing. They mix it up.
That watercolor is what they use, I guess, for this. And it just totally trippy.
Yeah, there's a page further on in the book too where there's kind of a cool comparison of like, basically Han Solo, Leia, Chewbacca, C-3PO. They get there, they're talking to Luke, and then Luke's like, "You guys have to leave immediately. There's evil present here. I can sense it, and I have to face this on my own."
What planet are they on? Is
classic
it
Luke
Imperial
move.
City?
No, not yet, because they travel there. This first one they're on, and I feel like it was in the title crawl. It's not a city. It's not a. Sorry. It's not a planet that is. The planet they're on has an Imperial City, and that's where they're at.
Oh, it's called Imperial City though.
The whole planet's called Imperial
No,
City?
just the city they're going.
The city is
Yeah.
called Imperial City, yeah. Which is a super creative name when thinking of all the names in the Star Wars
I know,
universe.
right? Well, and
Actually-
it says it's the home of Palpatine. Like that's where he goes to like
Yeah.
kick it. Yeah.
But it's funny because this book features all of the lazy names. The Mon Calamari being from Calamari.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And then we find out that the huts are from...
it's
it's
like
another
Nog
planet-
Shadar or something like that.
But there's like a hut name there's hut somewhere in the name.
Oh my gosh.
When we get there, I'll find it again. But it
Um,
just really cracked me up.
But yeah, and it's the home of like I guess Palpatine goes there and he kicks it, and I thought that was real similar right away from that.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker, where he has his home city that he hangs out at. Mm-hmm. And Leia and Han have 2 kids already.
Yes, I guess this
Yeah.
happens in the Thrawn trilogy. I mean, I know they have kids. Like, I know some of the expanded universe, but I just don't know all
And
of
I know
them.
one of them was named Ben too.
Yeah, one of them is Ben.
Yeah.
That part they kept, which makes sense.
I can't think of the other ones though, off the top of my head.
No, I know there's Mara, but I think that's Luke's kid.
No.
Does Luke have a kid?
Yeah, but Mara Jade is Luke's wife.
Oh, that's right. Mara
Yeah.
Jade is Luke's wife.
We should read that series.
Cade Skywalker is his son, I'm pretty sure.
No.
Or no, that's the
Caden.
new.
Dude, I've been reading that stuff lately.
Caden
the
is-
legacy stuff. Cade
is,
Skywalker is like his great grandson.
There we go. That's way in the future.
Dude,
And he's like a bounty hunter, right?
yeah,
A bounty hunter
because-
Jedi.
Spoilers, guys. He is with his father, Cole Skywalker.
Okay.
And they're fighting the Sith, and the Sith are no longer doing the rule of 2 thing. And there's like, they rule as 1, just like they previously did. Like as in there's like an organization at
Yeah.
that point. And they think that, well, Cole Skywalker dies facing the Sith, and Cade keeps on like trying to go back to help his dad, and the Jedi he's with stop him, and he's like no, and like one of the Jedi is about to die, so he uses force healing on that Jedi to heal him, but he taps into the dark side to like get the power to heal him, and he goes off to like shoot off the TIE fighters that are chasing him, or Sith invaders or whatever. Um, and they think that Cade dies because they shoot him down, but he gets like ejected out of his ship, and he cuts off his ability to use the Force, just completely cuts it. So they think he's dead because they don't feel him in the Force anymore.
Oh, okay.
And he distances himself from the Jedi, and he just becomes a bounty hunter for the next 8 years.
Wow.
And there's a new Sith Uprising, Darth Karat, which is this crazy dude that apparently he was around during the Clone Wars and all this. And yeah, and I guess his father, Karat's father, led Sand People, so he went back to Tatooine to lead the Sand People again, and then he encounters Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan slices off this dude's arm, and this guy goes to a Sith temple to try to heal himself, and he gets like a robotic arm, and he goes through all these trials and becomes a Sith, and then he goes into stasis for a while.
Wow.
And comes back post everything.
Obi-Wan when he's hiding out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on
Interesting.
Tatooine. Yeah.
I wonder if the Obi-Wan series would do anything like that.
I hope he faces Darth Maul and all that.
Well, this is also kind of spoilers, but the Darth Maul fight happens in Rebels. So it makes me
With Obi-Wan and
with Obi-Wan, he goes back.
on Tatooine?
And I actually saw a really cool thing, but I can't tell you without it being spoilers. So, spoilers for you. So when you finish watching Rebels, we'll have to talk about it. But that's also something I've been wondering about that Obi-Wan show. Are they just going to retell some of Rebels? Because there's still a big chunk. Like when they get there, he's already old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because Rebels takes place pretty close to the beginning of New Hope.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So I don't know. I'm curious, man. I don't know how that's going to work out.
I'm hyped.
I don't mind if they retell it.
Dude,
in
me
live
either.
action. Just do it.
I love that
Everyone
stuff.
would love to see it live action.
Dude, everyone would love to see Darth Maul again.
Get the guy who played Darth Maul, get him back too.
Ray Park or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
That'd be really cool.
How do we venture into Cade Skywalker?
Oh, we were just talking about Luke's extended family. So yeah, it's a little complicated. We're not sure exactly what the twins are. Mm-hmm. I think it's just like poetry. It rhymes. You know what I mean? Like it's the twins.
Oh yeah.
And now it'll be a new set of twins. Of course,
like a Jedi Knight.
That's how twins work. Yeah, Leia's a Jedi. She's married to Han. I think that's pretty much all the catching up.
Yeah.
There's not a lot else to know in between those. And that's the end of issue 1. That's really all that happens. They
take off in the Falcon. R2 and Luke stay behind. And Luke does this really cool like pose. And then he gets like sucked up into something.
Yeah.
I forgot what.
And that's the page I was talking about earlier. It's a really cool page. The watercolor comes out really nice.
And then you have the Watchmen stuff at the end.
Yeah, and then you have that's what it reminded me of when I saw this. I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
Alan Moore's barely got me doing this.
And book 2, Devastator of Worlds.
Yeah, in this book, and again, I feel like the first 2 issues are a lot of filler, but they go by pretty quick.
But dude, right away, it's the Rise of Skywalker. There's a planet that has a fleet covering it full of Imperial machines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's the movie.
I wonder if people reading Dark Empire back then were like, where'd the Empire get all these extra ships from?
Yeah.
How did the Emperor get all these ships on this planet?
Yeah. And I guess there's some of them that are called Devastators, and they were dungeon ships used to transfer Jedi in the Clone Wars.
Which didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Which is also good on Disney for erasing all of this, because already the prequels argued with so much of it.
Oh, so much.
Because they were just written by random people. It's not like these were written by George Lucas.
Yeah.
So, of course, some of these are really good. So Disney has a lot of shoes to fill. Mm-hmm. But, and not to get back on this entirely, it is cool that Disney brought back Thrawn. They do know they do know that some of it should be kept.
Yeah.
And then some of it, for instance, like Rogue One, they decide, we're going to get rid of Kyle Katarn. Let's tell our own story.
And not do Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, but maybe they will. It's not too late for Shadows of the Empire. It could still happen.
I wonder if there's enough fan demand.
For Shadows of the Empire? I don't know.
Man, I bet if they even whisper it, it would blow up.
You know what they should do? Do 1 season on Disney Plus and just do the Shadows of the Empire TV show.
Or just introduce, what's his name again?
Dash Render.
Dash Render. I don't know. I keep on thinking Dax for some reason. But
even
Dash,
if they just put him in another show, people would be pretty thrilled just to see him.
Dude, yeah, just have him pop up and then it'll blow up.
Yeah, have him show up on Mandalorian.
All the
super old
30 to what, 40-year-old probably Star Wars fans will just go crazy.
Everyone had N64
Yeah.
in the 90s. Yeah, they'll go nuts. There's a lot of just information in this book, and some that I can sum this all up for you guys very quickly. The Empire's got these new weapons that they got to take out. Admiral Akbar is with Mon Mothma, and they're talking strategy. That's it.
Oh, no. We also see the clone of Palpatine.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I mean, the first half of the book.
Oh,
you know
okay,
what I mean?
But that's it.
And it's like half the issue is just them saying, oh, we're going to have to take these things. That's a lot of setup. Leia can sense Luke
going to the dark side.
She can feel him happening because you know what? They have some sort of link through the Force. There's some kind of Force dyad. You know what I mean?
Yep. Where they could connect through the Force and kind of see each other, but not really see each other.
Although, honestly, this one makes more sense.
Yeah, because they're brother and sister.
Than the Kylo Ren and Rey.
What was the
Palpatine
explanation?
Well, you know, what I took away from it was that they're probably around the same age. So maybe it's just there are people who are linked through the Force. That could be one thing.
That's stupid.
The other one could be that Palpatine and the Skywalker fates are intertwined somehow.
I can see that. Some like Shakespearean stuff almost.
So these newer ones, the descendants of the old actors, you know, on the stage are connected somehow. Just by like fate, which sounds Star Warsy.
Yeah.
Star Wars is just a lot of fantasy. People are like, no, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, they're space wizards.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Let's calm down a little bit. Like, Metachlorians is awful because it tries to put scientific parameters
give
around
logic to
something.
it. When it's like it doesn't need logic.
It doesn't need logic.
You're just lucky if you get it or not.
Yeah,
like,
some of us get it, some of us don't.
Yeah. And I always like that because I was just like, well, wasn't me.
Yeah,
you know?
very, very X-Men. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same kind of feel.
You know what's cool when we see Palpatine's clone is his knights. Did you take a look at their detail of their armor and all that?
Yeah, they're really, really cool. They're also huge.
Super metal, dude.
Yeah, they kind of have like a weird Jawa vibe because they have the tiny little red eyes underneath their hood, and then there's
that like medieval knight kind
of. It looks kind of like a
carnage.
Tusken Raider mixed with like a medieval knight with Jawa eyes. Because it's got kind of like put together like scavenger feel to it too. They're really interesting. Oh yeah, but Palpatine has made clones for himself so that when he dies that he can hop into one of these other clones.
Yeah.
Says the process is very painful, but it's worth it for eternal life, which leads you to think that Palpatine... I mean, again, the prequels weren't written, but now if you count this all together... That means that the Palpatine in that show had probably already cloned himself and already been transferred. If he already knows this couldn't have been the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy to think about. The Palpatine could have been around forever. And when you put an idea like that, then yeah, Last Jedi makes a lot of sense. Now, I think there's a criticism that by bringing Palpatine back, it kind of belittles the end of Return of the Jedi and the sacrifice of Darth Vader and everything. No. But I just think that, and it happens at the end of all the trilogies, balance to the Force is restored. Yeah. In some way.
That's a good point.
So Palpatine had to come back because there was a void in the dark side.
Yeah.
We thought it was Snoke, but it's not really Snoke. It's Palpatine. So is it a little scrambly? Yeah, for sure. But that's what happens when you don't write a trilogy all at the same time, man.
It is so funny trying to... You know, people who get really upset about how everything's laid out. It's like, well, they told the middle of the story.
Yeah, there's your first problem right there.
And then they went back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they decided to wrap it up. Like, stuff's not going to connect.
And let's be honest, Star Wars is 3 movies.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Star Wars is we, like, have this magical, like... Oh, this is Star Wars. It's not anything else. It's not any of the comics or the games or the show. It's just those 3 movies.
Yeah.
Because they were written to be a trilogy.
And that was it.
And then they made a lot of money. Even the first one.
It was meant to end.
Was meant to be one movie.
Yeah.
And they realized they had a hit, so they had to write some more. But they're just so competent to have done 5 so well. You know what I mean? That's just such a great arc they had there. But anyway,
there's this page where you see Luke standing, and he has like his black boots on, and he's kind of holding his lightsaber. I don't have the page number on me, but it's
okay.
before the one where he kneels before Palpatine. And I love the outfit in Return of the Jedi, like how he's in all black with a green lightsaber. I
love that too, man.
And having this like cloak on it. I think that's when I was a kid. It was like the drawing of him that attracted me to this comic so much.
Yeah,
and it was like, man, I want to see like, all in black Luke Skywalker, kind of total Batman.
Yeah.
And
I see I see the frame you're talking about. We also have to assume, and it's not really shown because of the color scheme that's going on, but that lightsaber Luke has is the green one, right? Because this is after Return of the Jedi, which is just so cool. And we're gonna talk so much about this, but it bums me out that we don't really know what happened to the green lightsaber in the whole prequel trilogy. Or sequel trilogy.
They kind of just jumped to the blue one. I thought they lost the blue one.
They did lose the blue one, which it falls down that hole with Luke's hand. So it went somewhere in Cloud City. I mean, presumably someone could have found it.
Yeah.
And there's that line in Force Awakens about them being like, "How did you get this, Maz?" And she's like, "A story for another time."
Yeah, exactly.
And that just never comes. Of course, do they need to? They're going to make a comic book.
I'll say if they do, I'll read the comic if they tell about it. Right now. I'm curious.
Yeah, but the green one, I'm more curious about.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that?
Because that was the coolest one.
Presumably, he lost it somewhere during that whole conflict. Oh, real quick. I mean, I'm sure you don't remember this. In Last Jedi, when Luke attacks Ben as he's sleeping, what color is his lightsaber? It was green, so that is the green lightsaber. Yeah. So presumably he loses it then or something. Maybe he throws it away because he's leaving to not be a Jedi anymore. Mm-hmm. So that could make sense, man.
That would make sense.
I forgot that it was green. Mm-hmm. If it's blue, it makes even less sense. But
If it's blue, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, now I gotta go back and watch that scene.
I would just Google it, but whatever.
Oh yeah, that's a better idea. Or just YouTube it. That scene's on YouTube, I'm sure.
Yeah. Book 3.
Well, one important detail though, the Emperor convinces Luke to join him.
Oh,
he's giving him this same good old Emperor speech. Join me, join the dark side. And then Luke is like looking into the future using the Force, realizing that this is what has to happen for him to save his friends and to save the rebellion.
And I was like, and he's even like, dang, I can't escape this time.
Yeah.
He even admits it. Like, I know it's not right, but it's what I need to do. And he keeps telling everyone. And, that's what the cool thing about Luke Skywalker is that he knows what's up. And he's always known what's up. And he's always just like, well, I'm doing this for a reason. And all of his choices kind of have valid reasoning behind it. It's not like Anakin or Ben or anything. Like, he's always been real logical, and this is my mission, and this is what I have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is a pretty natural place for him to go. And the next issue, we pretty much deal just like with now evil Luke. He's not fully evil. And we find out that he's like working behind the scenes, trying to sabotage the Empire and their ships.
It's funny because Cade Skywalker does the same thing in Legacy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, he joins Darth Karat for a minute, and he's trying to like just learn the dark side, just to understand it and have like a full-fledged knowledge of it. But it's more of they even talk about, dang, they do it in this book too, where they talk about a Jedi that was like, I need to learn the dark side so I can have an understanding of it.
Yeah.
And it goes wrong for most of them, but one of them does survive. And that's just like spoilers, but the holocron we see later on in this book.
Yeah, the Jedi holocron. Again, kind of like a sort of the Sith wayfinder of this one, although it's more meaningful in this one.
Okay, I'll just stray again because it's just a bunch of rants. But I was reading this article, and they were saying that one of the biggest plot holes in Rise of Skywalker is the Wayfinder. And they're like, what is this Wayfinder and these holocrons, and how does this make any sense? And I'm like, guys, if you knew anything about Star Wars, you would know that, like, the holocrons are like one of the most important things to find.
Yeah.
It leads you on stuff. Like, the Wayfinder, I didn't know what it was right when I saw Rise of Skywalker, but it made sense to me right away. But they were upset saying that that's one of the biggest plot holes.
See, a huge pet peeve, and this happened. I was talking with Michelle about this yesterday. People misusing the word plot hole.
Yeah.
Because that's not a plot hole.
No.
That's something that you don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could say that it's an easy storytelling device, that there's an item they need to get to a place, like a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
But that's not a plot hole.
Yeah.
Like, a plot hole would be like if Luke had a second brother and then they just never brought him back or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or no, even that wouldn't be a plot hole. I'm trying to think of what a plot hole would be. Like a good example of a plot hole. But it's something that the logic of the movie falls through the hole. It's not just something that isn't fully explained. That's not a plot hole.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. People on the internet use plot hole all the time. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, that, and they were also saying him, at the very beginning, he's on Mustafar. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that when I first saw it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I only knew that because I read it, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I read that after I saw the movie, but I was just like, that's, again, not a plot hole, guys.
How would they even say that's a plot hole?
Bad writers and editors.
It's just the same. And if we know from even now the current expanded universe that Vader had a castle on Mustafar. Yeah. And that was his base.
Yeah.
So if Vader's castle was there.
There's even a comic called Vader's Castle.
Yeah, there is. Then a significant Sith object would be there on Mustafar. That stands to reason. Mm-hmm. So
definitely not a plot hole.
Not a plot hole. I'm sorry, man. Yeah. Maybe you don't like it. That's fine, but you just can't.
Maybe you just are watching Star Wars and it was too... I think that's the biggest thing about it is that people didn't like this movie because it doesn't reflect the Marvel or the recent Disney look at Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker was very much the dark horse of the Star Wars movies.
Oh, I can see that.
I felt like that. 100%.
I felt like it could have been longer, to be honest. I feel like some of it was just rushed. That's the biggest thing about the movie.
I think that is because
they were trying to wrap a bunch of stuff. That's the problem.
Well, that and The Last Jedi didn't do a lot.
Yeah, The Last Jedi, we were talking about this. There's some parts that are significant to the story.
There's like an hour and a half worth of storytelling.
I would say Last Jedi is the most non-conventional Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow almost any of the tropes of any of the other Star Wars movies. It's like its own totally complete story. Yeah. There are some cheesy things that shouldn't have been in it that would have tightened it up a whole bunch. Like they could have used a heavier edit on Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. The Kylo Ren, Rey, Snoke scene where they're in that throne room and they're having that struggle about you're trying to figure out who's deceiving who. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, Return of the Jedi, but the end of it's completely different.
Yeah.
Like it sets it up the same way, but then it takes you to a totally different place.
Mm-hmm. I think Rise of Skywalker was trying to do 2 films in one.
I think so too.
It was trying to cram what was missing, what should have been in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And what was meant to be in Rise of Skywalker.
If they'd known the way that this was going to happen, they should have had the introduction of Palpatine at the end of Last Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Where after they kill Snoke, Kylo Ren is trying to discover what to do next. Instead of the movie just ending him being upset and not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Him getting a message from the Emperor.
That would have been brilliant.
Or finding the Jedi Holocron, and then he uses it to go to that planet, and then the first scene.
That would have been great.
And then bam, that's where it stops. See, that would have left people
saved the movie.
People would have been like, what is going on?
I wouldn't hate Rian Johnson.
Yeah. And then people wouldn't have been like, oh, they just saved Palpatine for the last one. Of course, the problem is they didn't plan it out. So that's the issue here.
Book 3. The Battle for Calamari.
And again, man, this is so... there's a bunch of really big spaceship scenes, and they're drawn really beautifully, and I think they're interesting. But to me, I was just wanting to get back to the story of Luke. I wasn't so interested in
and
what
I think
Admiral Akbar is doing.
It felt dense to me because of that. Because it's I don't need to know. These battles drag on for way too long.
Yeah.
They're half the issue.
They're always half the issue, and they're just so heavy with a lot of jargon that doesn't seem necessary. It almost would have been cooler if they tried to minimalize the dialogue entirely.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't even need to see Mon Mothma and Admiral Akbar in every issue.
Nobody cares.
No one cares, guys. Who's the Admiral Akbar fan?
Although he shouldn't have died in The Last Jedi the way he did. He went out like a punk.
They took out our homie Admiral Akbar after he's been through all of this.
I know. He had his own cereal. Do you remember that Robot Chicken sketch?
No, I don't.
What? You've never seen the Admiral Akbar cereal?
No.
Was it
I thought you were being serious. I thought they really had a cereal for Admiral Akbar.
be
I was like,
surprised.
that's ridiculous.
You know, this scene with Leia and Vader, who's actually Luke,
Yes.
the Force Ghost, that should have been on page 3.
Oh, yeah.
Or
That would have been
5.
way more interesting. That would have been a cool capture. And there's in the last issue, they did hint to that too. There was an outline of a character that looked like Vader. And then when
Really?
they step out, it's actually Luke. And his hood makes it look
Notice that.
like Vader from a distance.
What?
It's towards the end of the issue, I think. But yeah, they're just talking, and basically Luke kind of says the same thing, like, "You can't come get me." He says the same thing.
He says it in like
1.
every issue almost. Honestly.
Yeah, leave me alone, which is funny because he says that a lot in the show too. Like, this is something, or the movie, this is something I have to do on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's always got to go off, and I must face Vader.
But he has that real anime-looking eyes that looks real eerie with that haircut and everything.
Yeah, they give him some evil eyes.
I like how it looks like almost the Force is like running through him when he's talking to Leia.
Yeah.
The way they did the coloring. And they introduced the E-Wing.
The E-Wing, because there wasn't enough lettered spaceships.
Call it something
And
else,
apparently it's going to be more effective against the shields. It's just a bunch of new stuff that they've just invented.
Yeah.
They got new weapons. We got new weapons. Let's write more ships so that we can sell another guidebook and update it and make everyone buy another one.
I was telling you about when I learned about this series, it's because I had a guidebook.
Yeah.
And it was like dude, I remember it's real funny. This is how young I was. I got the guidebook and Lincoln Park Meteora at the same time.
Dang, dude, you had a great weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember getting these together in specific, and I learned about all these characters. Even Han's like ex-girlfriend.
Oh yeah, and she shows up here later, and she's kind of like the female side characters in Rise of Skywalker. Like if you combine both those characters together, the stormtrooper defector they found and Poe's old girlfriend, if you just match those people and pretend they're one character.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's like the same role. It's really,
because he relies on her completely, like with this shit. Oh my gosh!
And the U meter, is it this issue U meter or is it next one? I'm not sure which one it is, but they're coming to Narshada, Leia and Han.
Oh yeah, that's here
to the Hutt homeworld. And they have a bounty on their head because Leia killed Jabba the Hutt, and you don't kill a Hutt and live.
I thought that was too cool. Real fast before we continue on that,
I'm sorry.
At the beginning of the issue, he's called Supreme Commander Skywalker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which seems like Supreme Leader Snoke or Supreme Leader Ren. You know what I mean? Exactly. Even the feel of it is very similar.
And they have fully robotic TIE fighters. Which call to the prequels.
Call to the prequels.
Yeah.
Ideas that are explored later.
You already got the...
And I'm sorry, just real quick. I like it more that the droids are now. Because it always bugged me that you watch the prequels and then droids are just gone for all the original trilogy. Yeah. It doesn't make sense because of the storytelling order. There would still be some laying around. Yeah. And it's super cool that in The Mandalorian, the battle droids show up. The super battle droids.
Oh, that was too cool.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I was so excited about a prequel trilogy character, quote unquote.
Right? Yeah.
But it was cool.
But the super battle droids are cool. It's like when I play Battlefront and I'm like the skinny little weird... what are they called?
Battle droids.
They're just battle droids, right? Yeah. I hate being those. I feel like I'm weaker when I play those.
Right? Like you should be telling some little one-liner or something.
Yeah. Issue 4. I mean, okay, and like you're saying, a lot of these kind of don't have a lot going on, and they kind of take a while to get to it.
Yeah.
But Leia meets...
Yeah, I was going to say, Jedi. Before we get there, they land on this planet. Han's got a buddy, an old friend. And of course, Han's old friends are never really his friends. Yeah. And he tries to cash him in for the Hutt thing. They get bailed out by Han's old girlfriend, who's Sala. And she doesn't bail him out yet, so I'm going out of order. But anyways, they're walking around the planet, and Leia and Han run into this like beggar woman. And she like lifts her head and her face is all deformed and like it's covered in like boils. She kind of looks like the Emperor after getting struck by lightning. and her name is Vima. She senses that Leia's a Jedi and says, I was a Jedi, and I want to help you, and gives her something in a little container.
Yeah.
Which we soon find out is a lightsaber.
Yeah. That was super cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And I guess Leia doesn't have a lightsaber. She's been training but doesn't have her own. That's what it seems like.
And it doesn't seem like Leia ever liked using one.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And even in Rise of Skywalker, she wasn't really like...
Well, except for that one scene when they show the flashback.
And the training. But that's it. Like, she's trained in it. But...
Which, I don't know if you know this, it's not... that's not footage... Like, it's not footage of Leia, like old footage that they did, or it's not a de-aging process or a CGI character. It's actually her daughter, Billie Lourd, who's also in the movie in another role.
Yeah.
So she
like
plays
commander.
her in that flashback scene, which I thought was really cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
But that's the end of that issue.
Pretty much.
And the next issue, really not a lot goes on. Like,
yeah, it's pretty spaced out, man.
Of course, you get our attention because Boba Fett's in it.
Yeah, they bring back the Fett Man.
Yeah, and even explains how he gets out of the Sarlacc pit. Yeah,
and it's cool because this makes sense, but it kind of doesn't at the same time. It's cool that they brought him back in kind of tying up the Hutt storyline. Like, here's a little loose end. Oh, Boba Fett's also here. Yeah. He's like in that thing. But this also makes it seem like Boba Fett has some like huge loyalty to the Hutts.
Yeah.
And because of the prequels and everything we know that he's just a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Maybe he does a lot of work for the Hutts. I don't know.
So.
That might be it. Maybe he's got a little bit of loyalty to him.
Probably pay real well.
But then we get a pretty classic Star Wars chase scene. They're chasing after them. They kill another Hutt.
Well, and also they've... like you said, he's with one of Han's friends.
Yeah.
That like bail him out. But it turns out Han's friend is the one that told Boba about Han's apartment there, and that's how they catch him. So of course, Han's friend sold him out, just like on Empire when Han's friend sold him out.
And that part is pretty recycled.
Yeah. And then there's a super long space scene. Which, I mean, I love seeing the artwork for the space scenes.
Yeah, I like reading it too.
Cool.
It just doesn't have a lot for us to talk about. Like, unless we want to describe every single panel. But they're getting chased through the city. It kind of feels like something that would be in... Is it the beginning? It's the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
When they're chasing that assassin character.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Anakin.
You know... Watching the 2003 Clone Wars recently, and it's only 2 hours. You guys can watch it on YouTube. It's so worth it.
Yeah.
The artwork is by the guy who did Samurai Jack, which is amazing.
It's beautiful.
But I love how the end of that series goes straight into the beginning of Episode 3. Because Episode 3, you just get dropped in the middle of a starfight, and you're like, what's going on? But you realize why they made Anakin a knight. You see why they're chasing Grievous, and they know how they got the Chancellor. Like, it explains so much. Like,
and if you're like a little confused about the history of this thing, that Clone Wars was actually, it used to come on, they were tiny little mini episodes.
Like 3 to 5 minute episodes.
And I remember them coming on like during commercials.
Like during Cartoon Fridays.
Exactly. You would watch one every week. Little serials, which is kind of cool because they're sort of like the original inspiration for Star Wars.
And it was cool because back then we didn't have YouTube or anything, so you had to tune in.
Yeah, you had to make sure you're watching Cartoon Fridays
and catch that 3-minute part.
But let's be honest, who wasn't? You know what
right?
I mean? But yeah, when you watch them all together, they flow really nice.
Dude, fluid. It felt like a movie.
Yeah.
You couldn't stop watching it.
It's really cool, man. And I would say this, because if that Clone Wars is confusing because there's 2 animated Clone Wars. There's the one that's really long, that's like 6 seasons right now, another season coming out soon. That one is fantastic. But say you were trying to do a Star Wars run where you wanted to watch everything in order. So you watch like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, then you would have to watch all 6 seasons of that Clone Wars. And say you don't want to dedicate that much time, watching this thing kind of fulfills that need to expand more of what the Clone Wars are. It is different than, because they're technically not canon. You know what I mean? Which is even weirder because they tie in so neatly. But if you wanted just something real quick and kind of explore that a little bit, and you've never seen it, I would highly recommend that, man.
So much.
That is good Star Wars stuff.
And it turns out, I was reading into it, it was 3 seasons. And season 1 and 2 are it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. but the first hour is nothing but the first 2 seasons. Those 3 to 5 minute episodes. And if you watch carefully, you could tell where they're supposed to end. Yeah. But they flow so well. We watched the first hour and didn't even know. It wasn't until I was just like, what's going on? And I was on the last episode of season 2 when I was like, let's just finish this last episode.
Yeah.
But season 3 only consists of 4 episodes, and they're all like 12 minutes long. And that's the last hour of that 2-hour segment. But, oh man, so good. And it flows well. You get understanding of all the characters. You see how great Obi-Wan and Anakin were together, and why they're all brotherly and everything. And I mean, it makes episode 3 hurt that much more.
Yeah.
You know? And it even says how 3PO gets the gold armor.
Oh, they do. Yeah. They clean that up too, which I think they also do in the other Clone Wars.
Oh, nice.
And a lot of those same things are touched upon, a lot of the same themes, but man, if you're just trying to binge all Star Wars, it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Both are great. Both should be watched by Star Wars fans, especially those who feel frustrated with where Star Wars is right now. I think they're newer. Well, that other Clone Wars is old now.
Yeah.
But
so watchable.
Yeah, they're really good.
But this issue, real fast. So they escape the bounty hunters, of course. And they're going to the planet where Luke is at with the Emperor, because Leia is on a mission to go find him. And they get there. Where am I? I'm trying to find my spot in the book.
They get there, and it's kind of like a reverse setup. Like Luke showing up and Vader being there.
Yeah.
And then Emperor like trying to get Leia, making it very clear that he doesn't even care about Vader. He wants Luke, and now it's reversed. Like the Emperor has Luke, but he's not really who he's after. He wants Leia, and in particular, her unborn child that's in the womb.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
That she doesn't even know about. But she busts out that lightsaber. She intends to fight, and the Emperor just blows it up with the Force.
Yeah, because he's like, it's an old ancient weapon.
Yeah. Boom.
And does he give her a new one right away?
No, he gives her the old Force shock, and she's knocked unconscious.
There we go.
And then Han is upset because Luke's betraying him.
Yeah, dude, Han like hates Luke for the next to the end of the series almost.
Yeah,
he's just talking trash about Luke, how he can't trust him and all this stuff. And
it ends with Luke choking Han.
Yeah.
Telling him to stop. That it's no good.
It's under control, man.
Yeah. And at this point, it is important to point out that Luke is not fully under the Emperor's control.
No.
He's trying to play the Emperor.
It's all a ruse, yeah.
But of course, the Emperor knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's the Emperor. It's not his first rodeo. Dude, it's so funny. The beginning of issue 5, gosh, it looks like the Terminator in the cover of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Terminator with the lightsaber.
The cover of issue 5 is a young Emperor clone coming out of some goop all naked, and it does look like Terminator for sure, man. That's hilarious.
It's crazy because, as a kid, I saw this young Emperor first, and then seeing episode 1 young Emperor, I was like, guys, why'd you mess it up?
He's not even young, really.
No, he's in his 40s or something.
Yeah, but timeline-wise, it makes sense, age-wise. And it is cool that Ian McDiarmid has been the Emperor this whole time, and it's just worked out.
Yeah.
He was a young guy in makeup in the old ones, then he was the right age for the prequels.
Yeah.
And then now he's all beaten up and tattered. It's just perfect.
It's great.
It's so cool. I really like that. The next issue... Basically, Han's old girlfriend is holed up with a Millennium Falcon, and this ends up paying off because Han's going to need to be rescued soon. The Emperor is trying to tempt Leia to the dark side, classic Emperor tactic, and shows her a Jedi holocron, which is what keeps holograms of recordings and the teachings of the Jedi. But then Leia, she gets the upper hand on him. The Emperor's laying down on a bed for some reason. And then Leia pushes him over off the bed.
Yeah.
Takes the holocron and runs. And it just seems like...
He's just help an old man to his deathbed and all that. Yeah.
But he couldn't have just used the Force and stopped her. That part seemed kind of weird to me.
I know.
What are we supposed to expect?
Is it a plot hole, David?
Is that a plot hole?
I do love, if you read the Watchmen part of every book, it does explain the holocrons too. And it even says at the end of it that only a Jedi Knight's touch can reveal the full power of a holocron. And just like a Sith can only reveal the full power of a holocron. And so the Emperor is trying to tempt Leia to touch it, and so he could get the full information out of it. And that's like the whole ruse he's trying to do by presenting the holocron to her.
Yeah.
And then Luke is just commanding stuff too. And it's cool because you start seeing his new arm get set up. And I don't know if we see anything with like significant about his new hand, because the last issue he didn't have a hand, and she's like, what happened to your mechanical hand? He's like, I'm getting a new one. And
maybe it happened in Thrawn trilogy.
Well,
did he have a hand? Did he have both hands?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But I don't know if there's like a difference in like if he uses his hand for something special in this series in the next 2 issues.
Maybe they just he just wants a real top of the line hand, and the Empire has a great healthcare system. They just have good healthcare coverage, man.
Yeah.
This goes back to last issue. I skipped it though, and I just wanted to bring it up real quick. When they're getting chased by those bounty hunters, they jump to hyperspace, and Boba Fett says, I have their hyperspace coordinates, like as if he can figure out what they are without being on the ship. Oh, yeah. Which I thought adds an interesting logic to Star Wars, that you can just tell where someone's going in hyperspace and it allows you to chase them. Whereas in the new Star Wars movies, there's been like a little bit of stuff about like people following people through hyperspace and the logic behind that. And sometimes it's just flat out ignored. Like in this one, the newest one, they do the light speed skipping.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, well, how did the TIE fighters follow him this whole time?
Oh, it's true.
But if they have the same coordinates, if the logic of this was in that movie, it would make more sense. TIE fighter would just match whatever their coordinates are and just keep jumping through
and following
hyperspace.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just
wanted
to bring
cool.
that
That's
up.
a good little trivia fact almost.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? In this universe, it makes a little more sense. Well, the end of this book is interesting because when Leia escapes the holocron, she comes to Luke. Luke's like, okay, let me get you out of here. Han is rescued. They show up in the Millennium Falcon. He's super upset when he sees Luke because he thinks he's a traitor.
Yeah.
He's like, no, this is all part of a plan. Just relax. I have these codes so that we can take down the new big bad weapon the Imperials have. But we find out at the end that it's not really Luke who's with her. It's a force projection of Luke, which I thought was super interesting.
Super cool because they couldn't even tell the difference.
Yeah, and this is straight Last Jedi. It's also
oh my gosh, you're right.
A force power that's never explained or mentioned before that Luke acquires in his study of the knowledge. And they also mention force healing in this book too, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Something that a bunch of people are upset about too. Like, all this breaks down the logic of Star Wars. Why didn't he just force heal Padme or whatever? Because she died of a broken heart, Brandon.
Yeah.
You can't force heal a broken heart.
Can't.
But anyway,
dude, force healing is huge in Legacy too.
I was gonna say force healing has been huge in all of the expanded universe
since like Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, it's always been a thing in the expanded universe. The movies have never done it. That's true.
Jedi Academy has it.
Yeah.
Dude, like every Star Wars game has force healing.
Every Star Wars game has it because you have to have a way to heal yourself. That's the function.
Sure, yeah.
Of it. You know what I mean? There's got to be a way to get health back, but it is a thing. So, one of my favorite panels, though, after they find out Luke is Force Ghost and he disappears into the wind, Luke is confronting the Emperor, and there's this awesome, it's like black and white with like a blue background, and the Emperor's just like emerging dark side force.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because he reveals that he's like the essence of the Sith almost in this one. And he's like all of these force consciousnesses. Consciousnesses? Consciousnesses. Yeah, there we go. They're all embodied with him.
Yeah.
And that's how he carries on all this knowledge.
I like this more than Darth Sidious just being another Sith.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, the Emperor was such an overwhelming character of evil that when you watch the prequels and you find out he's just a senator who's a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
He's just a guy. It's like, well, what are all the other Sith? Of course, when you take this route, then you're basically saying he's like the only ever bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess there is more room to kind of switch up who the Sith Lord is. But I don't know.
If they follow the rule of two, after a certain time, once the Sith are essentially defeated in the old continuity,
yeah,
it's like empty for a while. And that means he was just kind of learning and aging and figuring himself out.
Yeah.
And maybe not even training anyone or having small apprentices to do stuff like Darth Maul and all that. Like knowing they're not going to live long. But he would be the big bad behind everything, but like that's kind of cool at the same time.
I think the rule of two kind of breaks down a lot. And it's in Phantom Menace that they mention the rule of two, right? Yoda says, always two there are, or something like that. So at the beginning, it's Emperor and Darth Maul. Mm-hmm. Then Darth Maul dies. Then he gets Count Dooku. Mm-hmm. And then how is General Grievous isn't really a Sith Lord?
No.
But he trains him. Is he the one who trains him? Who trains General Grievous? Dooku does.
Because it shows that in the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that kind of like breaks the order a little bit, but not fully. Of course, in the Clone Wars cartoon, you also get Asajj Ventress.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Which really throws things into a loop. But then you get stuff like the Emperor, Darth Vader, and then Starkiller in Force Unleashed.
Well, I think a big part of that is that Sidious was trying to be hidden for so long.
Yeah.
So by having Dooku and Grievous, Dooku and Ventress, it seemed like those were the two.
Yeah.
As in the rule of two to deceive the Jedi.
I'm pretty sure there's a plot line, though, when Darth Maul comes back that they're going to kill Asajj Ventress because there can only be two. Maybe. I think. It's been a while since I've seen all the Clone Wars. We're thinking about, talking about the newest season when it comes out, so we'll both be watching it soon.
I'm going to rewatch all of it.
Yeah, I need to go through it. But then, so what I really like about the rule of two, because we also have the prophecy of the chosen one, right? Mm-hmm. Who's going to bring balance to the Force. And I think people assume that Luke is the chosen one. But I really think Anakin is actually the chosen one, because he really does bring balance to the Force. At the end of Revenge of the Sith, because of his actions and all the Jedi being murdered, it's Yoda and Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and the Emperor. It's 2 and 2.
Yeah.
There's like real balance to the Force.
Yeah.
Of course, when you start throwing in all these
the
characters,
hidden people and all that. But that's like kind of added on.
Messy.
But the essential thought of the balance
is there.
That's a good point.
Isn't it? And then it always ends up that way. Like the end of, this is a controversial, I guess. The end of Return of the Jedi, it's just Luke, and there's no evil. Mm-hmm. But that's not balanced to the Force.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there is supposed to be a push and pull of the Force, well, now we know the Emperor's alive.
Yeah.
So the balance is restored. It's 1 and 1 again. Uh-huh. But then by like Luke bringing in and creating more Jedi in these flashbacks, what happens? They end up reverting itself though and creating a balance again. So the Force is always working to kind of like correct itself, so that because the Force is neither good nor evil, it's just what it exists. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool.
I think that's super cool
when I was thinking about the balance and everything. But
it's cool when you think of that perspective. I was reading a series over the weekend. It was called Jedi versus Sith, because Darth Bane. Have you ever heard of Darth Bane? Yeah, he's one of my favorite like Old Republic Sith, and his whole story was that, and this was basically the story of Jedi versus Sith, although it included some kids and some other stuff, which are really interesting, to be honest. But there were so many Sith that it was taking up too much Force power.
Oh, interesting.
And so power was being divided, and he was saying that we could be stronger if there was less of us. And so one of the Sith essentially creates a thought bomb, and it absorbs all the Jedi and the Sith around him and shoves them into this bubble. And then it explodes and destroys the planet and everything on it. Whoa. And Darth Bane survives. And Darth Bane is the one who makes the rule of two, just so that there's more power inside of one of them. Ooh. And that they're always going to be overthrowing each other, because once the other one gets an apprentice, that person has to defeat their master to prove their worthiness. Yeah. And it even says that, that in Legacy that I'm reading with Cade Skywalker, one of the Sith is saying that killing your master, like the master essentially accepts it because it knows what needs to happen.
The natural order.
Yeah, the natural order of things. And by killing your master, it's like the master died at the hands of their apprentice, which shows that they taught him really well. Yeah. So it's more of like a pride type of thing. But it's like the rule of two is the coolest thing, because
that is cool.
You're gaining more strength and power, and that's what they thrive off of.
Huh, that's really cool. I didn't know that story.
It's a 6-issue miniseries. the art it's real dark horse indie artwork and everything,
Okay.
you know, and the kids are kind of dorky. Like one of the boys is wearing like a crop top t-shirt and they're all orphans and it's like
Ugh.
brothers and cousins. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a little goofy and there's like these fuzzball things. But dude, they take some crazy turns like with the characters and even one of the Jedi, they're in this battleship and it looks like a Viking golden like honorable ship that like
Yeah.
floats down and everything, and they're wearing like all this armor and they're saying that's not Jedi, and it's a cool way to look at how Jedi were way back then.
Yeah.
It's like looking at us in medieval times towards now. It's exactly how they looked.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah,
I'll have to
it's
read that one.
Such a good series.
I mean, there's so many things to look at, but that sounds super
a
cool.
lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really trying to pick up single issues of old Star Wars books.
Oh man.
I think I'm going to be doing that for a while. Some of them are getting kind of expensive though. Well, at least the hardcovers are. Did you look at the hardcover for this thing by any chance?
Oh, dude, it is.
It's like
I was-
$150, $160.
I was like, I'm gonna eBay it so I own a copy, and I was like, "Pfft, no.
Yeah, even the Shadows of the Empire hardcover, which is only like 2 issues or something, or however much it is.
Oh, really?
It's like $95.
I guess because they're all out of print.
Yeah,
Dark
they're all
Horse
out
doesn't
of print,
have it
man.
anymore.
So people are scrounging them up. So if you ever see one in the wild,
Yeah.
there's just a heads up. Oh, well, the end of this issue, though, Luke is attacking the Emperor. He decides, though, that he's going to take out all his clones first, so that the Emperor has no body to jump into. But it's too late. The Emperor has taken over a younger body. They have a good old lightsaber duel, and he basically forces Luke into submission by defeating him. And now we have the real turn of Luke Skywalker, where he is being like corrupted by the dark side. And that's the end of issue 5.
Yeah.
6, I mean, shoot, man, I feel like I can sum up 6 in like 3 sentences. Like, I'm going to attempt real quick.
I didn't even take notes on 6 because it was so short.
Well, it's like there's a lot of dialogue and stuff, but essentially the good guys win with the codes that Luke's able to bring out.
And Han finally is just like, oh, cool. Good kid.
Leia shows up, and we basically just have another Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Leia is fighting.
To the T.
Luke is fighting Leia. He's controlled by the evil dark side, and then Leia is able to convince him, saying, "Hey, the child that I'm carrying now is going to be a great Jedi. You can feel it." In a way, they kind of channel the power of this third Jedi there. And she says, "Luke, look into the future. You know that it's good. You know that you're the one to train my children and make them Jedi." Again, something that is kept in the sequel trilogy, although the logic there's no other way to go about it.
Yeah.
If there's going to be more Jedi, it has to be Luke to train them. And then the Emperor is defeated,
He
essentially.
looks like a vampire.
He does, especially in the last frame that he's there where he's shouting. It's all like
yeah.
red and everything. Is the Emperor dead? Probably not. But that's the end of the story. And the end of it is kind of cool. Like, Luke says, "Your children, the Holocron, this is the beginning, Leia. I feel great things are coming. The Jedi Knight will rise again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels like you could just see the little circle close and dun-dun-dun-dun-dun,
Yeah.
you know. It felt like an appropriate end to a story.
Yeah, it's got a lot of retreaded storyline, I think. And we've been talking so much about this because of the Watchmen show and the Star Wars sequels. Is it a completely original story? It's not. I think you can see a lot of stuff that, for sure. I don't know. Like, did J.J. Abrams write this and never read Dark Empire? I don't know if that's possible.
I would say that's impossible.
There's so many things that are so similar. Of course,
too many things.
the difference is there's way more characters in.
Yeah. Well, because fates and the way things landed.
Yeah.
And, Han Solo not being around. And
This could have been a cool Star Wars movie in 1993. Yeah. Like, about 10 years. They had to film it in the early 90s. Yeah. Star Wars was gone 6 or 7 years. All those actors had matured and gotten a little bit older, but not too old, because there's no way you could tell the story with the age they were when they did the sequel trilogy.
Oh, no, yeah.
But I don't know if this is enough story for a trilogy of movies. This is one movie. And I think if we watch this as a movie, it would feel even more like I'm kind of watching a remixed Return of the Jedi, which I think would feel really weird right after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know what I mean? As a comic book, I think it does really well, and I think it's a cool story. I like the ideas it explores.
A lot of cool, great ideas.
Yeah, and the thing about the expanded universe is, you eat up so much of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just one little story isn't enough. And this is cool, too, because this is just a comic. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of those books had comics written after them or, like, adapted of them.
Yep.
This is specifically a comic-based story.
Well, that's what I was reading about the Shadows of the Empire comic. Was that this guy essentially created this story, and he helped write the book. And they wanted to make everything out of it, a video game. They wanted it to be
Toys,
the next big thing. All that, yeah.
It was a whole merchandising movement. Mm-hmm. And really, it is like it is the Star Wars movie of the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? When we think about extra stories.
Oh, yeah. Quick thing. And this was brought up when I was reading over this comic Legacy, because I saw a Bothian. But in Shadows of the Empire, they say Bothian spies get the rebel plans for the Death Stars. And the Bothians are kind of like these horse-looking guys.
I think it's Bothan.
Bothans?
I don't think there's an I. I could be wrong, though.
I don't know. I'm probably wrong, honestly. Let's be honest. But in Rogue One, we never saw that entire species at all.
And that kind of argues with its own logic, because if we're going in this expanded universe logic, before Rogue One, it was Kyle Katarn who stole the and it is Bothan. He's the one who steals it.
Okay. Yeah.
In the beginning of Dark Forces. That's like the first mission of the game.
Oh, wow.
Breaking in and stealing the Death Star plans.
Dude, I remember I had that on PC.
Yeah, dude. Doom clone. It's just straight up Doom.
Yeah.
For a long time, Star Wars games were just this game, but with Star Wars on it.
Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could play the first one over again, because it had that crazy Sith guy with like the things over his eyes that were real flat.
Yeah.
And they had this one Sith that had a double lightsaber, and he was missing his legs, but he was like this big buff dude.
I think. Let me see here.
He had like a yellow lightsaber too.
I feel like there is a Dark Forces re-release. Oh, you can get it on Steam now, and that's what it is. Like, if you wanted to play Dark Forces, you don't need to, get MS-DOS or anything. You can just download the game on Steam, and I remember them being very cheap. I think they're like $5 or $7,
Dude.
And of course, any computer would run it. I don't know if you remember this, if you heard this story. This is from June 10th, 2019. Do you know who Limited Run Games are?
No.
Limited Run Games is a company that takes games that were only released digitally and does physical releases of them, which are really cool for weirdos like me who don't want to just have digital games. It's like a pet peeve of mine. I love having physical copies of games. And I have a bunch of Limited Run releases, some that we did on the channel. Mm-hmm. Like I have a Night Trap. I have a Oregon Trail, like the zombie version. And I bought Spelunky, which is like one of my favorite games of this whole decade. But anyway, the reason I'm saying this is they made a deal with Star Wars that they're going to be doing physical re-releases of old school games. What? And these are the games that they have planned, and some of them have already been released. So Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Dark Forces, Episode 1 Racer, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, Star Wars Racer Revenge, which already did come out, Rebel Assault, Shadows of the Empire, TIE Fighter, and X-Wing. So it's possible that we're going to get Dark Forces and maybe even Shadows of the Empire like on PS4.
I was wrong. Dark Forces 2 is the one I want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Dark Forces 2 is cool too. I think that's the one where you get a lightsaber. That's the one where Kyle becomes a Jedi.
Yeah.
The first one is just straight up blaster. That's all you have. It's just Doom.
And then what's Jedi Outcast?
Jedi Outcast is the continuation of Kyle Katarn's story. So you still play as Kyle. You're like a full-fledged Jedi now. Yeah. It's after Return. You meet up with Luke, and he's giving you training on being a Jedi. You're the first one that Luke trains.
Wow.
So Kyle Katarn becomes the second Jedi. And then the one after that, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so good, dude.
You're Kyle Katarn is the teacher.
Yeah.
And now you guys are running
and you're
the Academy.
Padawan. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're the.
I got that one on Xbox, dude.
Dude, I love that game. That's one of my favorite Star Wars games.
It's one of the first times you get to ride a speeder.
Although, to be honest, Jedi Outcast probably has better gameplay. The one where you're just Kyle Katarn and the battles are way more epic.
Well, I got it on PS4 because they have it released digitally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm going to replay that.
You should, dude. They're both on there now. But the only thing that bums me out is they took the multiplayer out of the PS4 version.
They do that in all of them.
It's so annoying. That split screen multiplayer was so cool. Like doing 2-on-2 Jedi fights with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to do that one night.
Down.
Yeah. I have 4 controllers. I have the game. Let's just do it.
If I could ever get Dark Forces 2, though, man.
Just get on Steam, man. You got to install Steam on your MacBook and just play Dark Forces 2 all day. Will it work right? I don't know. I haven't used Steam on Mac. I have Steam and I have games already that I've purchased. So I should just install Steam on this Mac.
Let me know how it works on yours.
And I'll let you know if it's a disaster or not.
Because if it works on yours, it'll work better on mine, probably.
Yeah, because you have a newer one, so I'm sure it will, yeah. But if you're running a game like Dark Forces, I don't think you're going to have any problems today.
Yeah, because I took like 0 amount.
But anyways, would you recommend this as a book for who would you recommend it for, and would you recommend it?
Yes. For any Star Wars fan. If you liked Rise of Skywalker, if you didn't like Rise of Skywalker, it doesn't matter if you like the newest trilogy or not. This is just a cool story. I would say fans of the original trilogy should read this.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it makes a great companion piece to Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of see like where these like stories echo.
Yeah.
Because there has to be, man. There's so many similarities.
Well, then you learn about like what we were saying, Kylo Ren's name being Ben. You know, that was from the original expanded universe.
And again, another universe thing that kind of just makes sense too.
Yeah.
So
and if you
although can I just bring this up really quick?
Yeah.
Why do Leia and Han feel the necessity to name their kid Ben? If anyone was going to name their kid Ben, it'd be Luke. Because Luke is the one with a connection to him.
They didn't even know Ben.
They didn't. So it's so like
Han made Ben for like a day.
I never understood that, why they decided to go with that in both storylines.
I guess like Leia being the sister and knowing how much Ben meant to Luke.
Yeah, maybe.
But
she had a father. You know what I mean? Yeah. She had a dad. She had an adopted dad. So,
gosh,
forget about that.
There was explanations, I'm sure. I think one of the books I gave you might have that explanation.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, you gave me some Star Wars Expanded Universe. And you know what? Maybe this is a year that I finally knock out some Expanded Universe.
I was thinking, dude, I'm telling you, I've hated Star Wars for so long, and I'm on a huge kick. Like, I'm feeling nostalgic and happy, and I'm so excited to jump into it. I think the issues that people have with a lot of the newer stuff, and it goes 2 ways. There's you and me, who grew up with these video games and this expanded universe. Because I remember going to Barnes & Noble and just looking for a new Star Wars book and all this cool stuff to go with it and all these crazy comics. And we know about this history, and this is the Star Wars history we know. A lot of people just know the current Marvel outlook. So force healing, I don't think is used very much in the current Marvel stuff. I'm not too sure.
I don't know. I haven't read any of the books. Yeah.
I've only done some of the Vader stuff.
Yeah.
And where they introduced Dr. Aphra and stuff, but that's about it.
I'm going to be honest. I checked a couple of those books out, man. I'm just not interested in them.
Yeah.
The art style's not that interesting to me. The writing never seems to really go anywhere. Like, they don't seem like stories that feel at the end of it that they needed to be told.
Yeah.
Where at the end of this book, I was like, oh, this is a cool idea for where the series could have gone.
And knowing that there's a part 2, it's like, oh, well, I want to just read part 2 now, you know?
You know what else? This story could exist in the same universe. Like, all of this could have happened.
Yeah, it could have.
Previous the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, 100%.
Change the super surprise that the Emperor's still there. Yeah. Like, make it, oh, we know he's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But the story totally fits in there. It could. So.
100%. Well, I recommend it, and I'm glad. I mean, I read it. I looked into it as a kid. I read it like 10, 12 years ago, and I'm glad I got to retouch on it after this film.
This was fun.
Do you have anything for pull list?
I don't, but you know what? This seems like the perfect time because I wanted to toss in a new mini segment here. It'll be super quick.
All right.
I don't know the name yet all the way, so this is a terrible announcement, but let's just do it right now. I'm thinking trailer talk.
Ooh.
Did you watch the Morbius trailer?
Yes, I did.
And what did you think about the Morbius trailer?
I enjoyed it.
I thought it's interesting.
Yeah. Real generic in the whole, I'm testing the lab and I'm dying. And there's a lot of... I'm interested because I saw the Sam Raimi Spider-Man in the background on a poster. And I know it's in this new Spider-Man universe.
And apparently it's also like... That image of Spider-Man is from the loading screens of the Spider-Man PS4 game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's whole so funny. Web thing is fun.
Yeah, we know now that it's going to be in the same universe as the Tom Holland Spider-Man because of Vulture's appearance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought that was cool.
Keaton.
It was a nice little surprise.
Nice tag at the end. Because now this is going to be I'm assuming this is going to be closely related to Venom. And I think they're going to eventually get Tom Holland over for a big crossover or whatever.
Has to at this point.
It's funny to me, though, because this trailer reminds me so much of the Venom trailer in its tone and even like the things that are shown in the trailer.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm an average everyday guy. Oh, something bad's happening to me. Now I'm an uncontrollable monster.
Have a blood type. Yeah.
Yeah. So that part seems...
A lot of generic
monster
stuff in there.
I got to bring this up real quick, though. So I'm watching this trailer with my wife, Michelle, and as soon as the trailer comes on, it's like Morbius saying, like, what's wrong with me? Or something like that. And then they show Jared Leto's beautiful face.
Yeah.
And Michelle's like, well, there's nothing wrong with this guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, obviously. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, he looks so good. And I was thinking about me being in middle school listening to like 30 Seconds to Mars and him being like 26 or something.
Yeah.
How old do you think Jared Leto is? Give me a guess. Because I looked it up last night.
Dude, because he looks young still.
He looks super young, dude.
Still, yeah.
He doesn't age. Give me your guess. Don't think about it too hard. Just trust your instinct.
Like 36.
He's turning 50 next year. Jared Leto is 49
I was gonna push
right
it
now.
and say like 42, but oh my god.
That's insane, isn't it?
Whoa.
And you know what's even crazier thing about, and I know this just because I listened to Joe Rogan Experience, that guy just turned 50 like last year. So Jared Leto and Joe Rogan are almost the same exact age, dude.
And Joe Rogan looks way older too.
Yeah.
He doesn't look 50, but he looks way older.
Yeah.
Dang. Because Jared Leto still looks like he's in his 20s, dude. Like 30s maybe.
It's pretty crazy like how close they are. And you know what? Who is it? Sorry, I'm off on a tangent right now. Joe Rogan has a famous celebrity cousin that he's never met. And I want to say that it's Jared Leto, but I'm not going to say that until I look it up.
I remember you telling me about this.
It's Gerard Way.
Yeah.
Writer of Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
He's his cousin that he is a distant cousin that he's never met.
That's insane.
That's so
crazy. They got to be on the show at some point.
They should. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that. I thought that'd be fun. You know, every time a new trailer comes out, just give some impressions.
Did you see the Bloodshot trailer?
I didn't watch it yet. I know he sent it to me today, but
I've never read Bloodshot. It's off of Valiant Comics, which is a really big indie publisher that does like Man-O-War and stuff like that. I don't know what to think about it. Like I don't like I really don't. Like it looks it's very much that feel of like those 90 Image books where it's just action packed and blood and guts and like war. You know what I mean? Like it's different.
And I was never too into any of those, to be honest. None of them ever grasped me.
I never looked into. I got one Man-O-War issue and I never read it.
And then we didn't touch on it, but the trailer that came out just a couple weeks ago, and we weren't doing this, the X-Men movie. New Mutants.
Yeah.
New Mutants.
And I was hyped for New Mutants when they first announced it.
Me too. I thought that first trailer was super cool.
Dude, that was in 2000, I want to say 16?
Yeah, dude, that movie's... It's weird because Arya Stark looks like a little girl still, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know?
You can tell how much aging has gone on in this past couple of years.
I remember it was supposed to come out right before my birthday in like 2017, Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And now it's coming out right before my birthday, like 3 years later.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
The cast looks cool.
As a dude from Stranger Things.
Apparently, it's supposed to be the same universe as Deadpool. It's supposed to be some kind of connection to the Deadpool movie.
Wow.
That's just what I heard.
And then Deadpool's now in the MCU, so it has to be a segue maybe into... Maybe that's why they postponed it, is because I know the Fox merger was going on right before that was about to come out. So maybe this is how they'll lay into Mutants and X-Men.
Could have did some reshoots and tie something in. It's possible.
Yeah.
Oh, and Anya Taylor-Joy's in it, who's like...
Oh, yeah.
Quickly becoming one of my like favorite new actresses. She just has so many good performances, man.
Oh, nice.
She's like the girl in The Witch. And I know Frank is listening to us editing it right now. She's the main character in The Witch. She's fantastic. She's also the girl in Glass and what's the movie? Split. You know, the one before that.
Oh, whoa, that is her.
Yeah, that's her.
Man.
She's got a lot of really cool, and now she's doing a bunch of period pieces.
Wow.
She's doing Emma, I think. It's like based on
Emma Watson, yeah.
I can't Emma Watson, but yeah. Anyways, I think that movie's gonna be cool. I think the continuation of X-Men's tone problem is gonna keep going though, because when you lump this in as the final of the Fox X-Men movies.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
There was a lot of ups and downs, and motion wise and tone wise, all over the place.
Well, wasn't Brian? No, that was Dark Phoenix, where Bryan Singer was loosely attached to it still.
Yeah,
I think Bryan Singer was the issue with all that stuff, though.
Yeah, not a total clear vision. I mean, there were some good ones in there, but a lot of stuff you got to wade through. Like X-Men 1 and 2, good
Decent,
movies.
Yeah.
First Class, good movie. Days of Future Past, super cool. I really like that one.
Was cool.
Logan, ridiculous. How good that movie is.
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine,
You know, I saw all the Wolverine films, and I really enjoyed them all, except for
the first one. X-Men Origins Wolverine, or what?
That one, I was just like, this isn't like, it's watchable.
Well, the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool thing is really...
Oh, that is super bad. The ending ruins it, but it's like not...
The first part is not...
Yeah.
The first part's not terrible. No. And I like the Wolverine Goes to Japan movie.
Oh, love that one.
I think that one is very underrated, man.
The Wolverine, I think that one is, yeah.
Yeah, the Wolverine.
Super underrated. Yeah.
Well, do you have any other pull lists, man? I know you read we've heard about a bunch of Star Wars books. What else have you read?
Star Wars. That's it, dude. I read the Darth Maul 6-issue series, and I forgot I read that one as a kid too. But that one's essentially like pre-Phantom Menace, and it shows Darth Maul go against all of the Black Sun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
and I love when the Black Sun shows up.
Right, me too. Not the greatest series. Yeah, if you have time to read it, check it out. It's Darth Maul killing people. Super down. I read a Boba Fett. It's called, what was it called? Let me pull it up right here. Enemy of the Empire. And that one, dude, it's insane. Vader is tracking down something. So he hires Boba Fett, and Boba Fett hunts down this guy. But Vader also hires other people to kill Boba Fett at the same time once he gets this object. And this object is like this girl's head that has been severed, but she could predict the future, and that's why Vader wants it. And so Boba Fett has to go get it and all this stuff, and it has some cool stuff in it. And it's a Dark Horse book, super indie though. That's the cool thing about some of these Dark Horse Star Wars comics, is that they're so indie and they stray a lot. Like, instead of just being packed with Star Wars stuff, they have humorous little other characters, and
they're not afraid to experiment because there's so much free room.
Yeah, and that was the cool part.
And not a giant multi-million-dollar budget
where they had to watch everyone's movement. It was super fluid. And, I posted something on the Instagram today, but it shows Boba shoot Vader, and Vader deflects it, and it hits Boba in the head. And that's how Boba gets that giant dent in his helmet.
That's funny.
That was super rad.
What a classic Star Wars move. Let me explain some little detail.
I loved it. I thought it was super. That's cool. It was a lot of fun. I've been reading this Michael Moorcock story called Elric. And there was a comic book version of the book. So I started reading the comic book version. And Michael Moorcock even said that this comic book version is better than his book. And if they ever did a theatrical version of his story, that this is the version he would want being told.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. It's called Elric, the Ruby Throne, and it's by Titan Comics, an English publisher.
Interesting.
Dude, and they're super awesome. I had to see the real fast Stray story, but during Comic-Con this year, I went to the Diamond Lunch meeting because I had a pass and I was able to go in there for a retailer. And like, you have everyone present what's going to come out that year, and DC was like kind of entertaining, but they were just like, hey, like, this is the books we have and this is what we offer, and these are the ones you could send back to us if they don't sell. And Marvel was super boring. Got you, Frank. And it was that boring. I'm sorry, like, that slipped. But it was so boring. And Image, Scott Snyder, and Charles Soule came out, and they talked about their book, and it was the creators, about Undiscovered Country, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, okay, I remember that book.
Yeah, exactly. I did a review on it recently for the Daily Fandom. Yeah, it's interesting. I got to read more of it for sure.
Wow, what a stellar review.
There's a lot of stuff going on in it that I'm just like, all right, well, a lot of explaining in the first issue, we'll see where it goes. But the Titan Comics guys are from England, and they put on a show. And because you're talking to nothing but retailers, so because they're selling their stuff to you. And dude, they were the most entertaining. Everyone woke up. I took 2 naps during that meeting. Like, everyone woke up, and they were just like, it was like Abbott and Costello, like Monty Python, like back and forth. Like,
well, I guess those guys got to work a little bit harder too. You know?
Yeah, because they're selling like Doctor Who and stuff like that.
Marvel's like, you're buying our book, okay?
Yeah. And that's where they release like, oh, we're doing a Mary Jane series, and here's all the Mary Jane variant covers.
Yeah.
Stupid crap. But the Elric stuff, Titan Comics, Jedi versus Sith, and I'm on issue like 20 or 26 of Star Wars Legacy.
Cool.
It's a 50-issue series, and it is, dude, just so cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It's been a lot of fun. I think that's it. I finished that Lemmy book, White Line Fever, if you guys are Motorhead fans. Just insane rock and roll
That's
stories.
cool.
Yeah.
Those are always fun.
Yeah.
For me, man, I haven't had time to read anything else, to be honest. Well, I haven't made time. I could if I wanted to. But I did finally finish Mandalorian, and I just got to say, what a delight to have characters who are likable, a story that is taking its time, letting you develop, letting characters change.
Yeah.
And tying up a storyline neatly, I think.
And so much that relates to like what we're seeing in Rebels and Clone Wars.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I don't want to talk about any spoilers for those of you who haven't finished it, but man, the connections they make to these animated cartoons. I'm really excited for the next season, and I'm hoping that I would love to see one of the characters from those cartoons in live action, like them casting someone.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a couple in my head who I think would be perfect to come on the show. But I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil anything. That's pretty much it, man. I guess we can wrap this thing up here.
Nice. Next week we're doing... Ooh.
What are we doing?
It's February. We're doing a month of Lovecraft.
Oh, that's right.
So we're reading more Alan Moore towards the end of the month, which is probably a very vulgar episode if you guys are going to look into the books that we're going to read. The Courtyard, I don't know if it's that one. I think it's Neonomicon. But there's some graphic stuff in that book. It's an Alan Moore, like, Avatar Press, like,
I'm hearing
gets to show all.
I'm hearing a trigger warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just be ready.
That's towards the end of February. But the first one, we're doing Lock and Key because the TV show comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, and the first volume is called Welcome to Lovecraft. So I don't know anything about it. I just know it's by Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And I'm kind of excited to read it.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens,
And it's a self-contained 1 through 6 issue series.
Cool. And if we really enjoy it and the show's good, maybe we'll talk about that too. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, and see, we'll check out the show and after we read it and all that. I think it comes out mid-February.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so on Netflix. So we'll check that out and get ready for some horror. And honestly, we might end up doing more Star Wars episodes soon because this is awesome.
We might add another one in. Who knows? This might be a year-long venture. We'll see.
Let's go down nostalgia.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sticking with us, everyone. We appreciate it sincerely, and go register to vote.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging, David.